Michael Irvin, Jay Novacek, Daryl Johnston. And you watch it and you think that your time will never come. And my time's come.
From the ESPN zone in Anaheim, it's Up Close. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the show. And Troy Aikman, who yesterday made that tearful announcement, is our guest. He joins us now from his office in Texas. And Troy, you had time to prepare. You knew it was going to happen. Why did the emotions come over you? What happened to you there? It had to be unexpected, I think.
Well, to some degree, but I really felt going into it that it could be a tough announcement, that I could get emotional during that time, and it's a very difficult moment. And I think most every player that's been through it would agree that you feel a whole array of emotions when you're saying goodbye to something that you've been doing for so long and that you've loved for so much, and when you spend that kind of time and energy and doing it with some people that you really care about, and then walking away from that is hard.
How do you prepare to make a retirement announcement to cap a career like yours?
I'm sorry?
How do you prepare for that? I mean, this is a big thing. We carried it on ESPN News. We had the whole press conference. It was a big deal nationwide. How do you prepare for that, just the same way you prepared to play a game every Sunday?
Well, you know, I found out on Friday that we'd be having the press conference on Monday, and just tried putting together some thoughts over the weekend, some people that I felt that were important to me, and some people that I wanted to mention that played a big part in my career over the years, and then along with some people in the front office and equipment people and trainers and those that oftentimes go unnoticed. And you know, just getting prepared for that, just to go back to your first question, over the weekend while preparing those thoughts, then I knew how meaningful so many of the people were that I've been a part of for 12 years, and how saying goodbye to them was going to be hard.
You mentioned a lot of people, all the secretaries throughout the years, the trainers, like you just said, people that those of us in the national audience don't know about, even the Dallas Cowboy fans probably don't know about. Right. Is that the toughest part, the family? And is that why you decided, did it play any role remaining a Cowboy and not going to another team because of that kind of relationship?
Well, it's meaningful to me that I've had the opportunity to spend my entire career in a Dallas uniform. You know, I was not necessarily eager to go play for another football team, but I still had the competitiveness in me that wanted to go out and play. Because of salary cap restrictions, it kept me from continuing my career in Dallas. There were a couple of teams that I was interested in maybe going on to play for. When those situations did not happen for me in a favorable way, then I pretty much knew 3 to 4 weeks ago that I would not be continuing my football career, and started looking into some other directions.
How close did you come to playing for somebody else?
Well, you know, ultimately, I guess, you know, not that close. But there were a couple of teams that we were in negotiations with that it looked like something may happen. One particular team, I thought that we had a deal done. And but when that didn't happen, and it was probably for the right reasons, I think there was something trying to tell me that maybe this was the way to go, and did not need to be playing any longer, considering my health and what I had been through over the past couple of seasons, along with my family. It was not something that they were entirely excited about, the proposition of moving and starting in another city. So I think all in all that this was the right decision, and the right decision was made for the right reasons.
Can we assume that that team you're talking about is San Diego, and was Norv Turner a big part of why you would want to play for them? Well,
you know, Norv, as I said yesterday during the press conference, he is really who I credit virtually all of my success as a quarterback. And he came in at a time when I was really needing some guidance and some confidence, and he gave that to me, along with Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and the rest of our football team. And we won 2 Super Bowls in the 3 years that Norv was here. He's one of my closest friends, and I think a great deal of him. And there's no question that if I were to go play somewhere, I wanted to play somewhere where I knew that we would have an opportunity to be successful offensively. And I think it's fair to say that that would happen in San Diego.
Was it essential with the things you looked at that you be a starting quarterback still, or would you have played a backup role?
No, there were a number of opportunities for me to go into camp with a football team and be a backup. That was not something that I was interested in. And you spend 12 years being a starter in this league, and it would be a completely different frame of mind for me to try to go somewhere and be a backup, and it's not something that I entertained at all.
Joe, I want to show the audience a graphic. You won't be able to see it because we're by satellite, but where you rank all time. And the biggest one is wins in a decade. No one has ever put together 90 wins in a decade. Your completion percentage is one of the highest of all time. Your playoff win percentage is in the top 5 as well. Passing yardage isn't up there with the glorious numbers, the record setters, but wins, is that to you the most important category?
Well, you know, the easy answer for me would be yes, because that's what I was able to do. And you know, quite honestly, when I came here to Dallas, I was hired here to win football games, and nowhere in my contract or nowhere when Jerry Jones drafted me back in 1989 did he talk about me throwing for a lot of yards or a lot of touchdowns. The whole objective of the game is to win, and I was able to do that, and that's something that I'm very proud of. And not only win, but we won championships. And I think that as quarterbacks, and I think most quarterbacks would agree, that that's what you're paid to do. And so I don't apologize for my modest statistics. That was not really the framework in which I played in. But we were able to score points. We were able to win football games and win championships. And I think that that's what I was brought here to do.
What is your count of concussions?
You know, I really don't even know. You know, I know that I've had several. I think that probably it was, you know, I think that over the last 6 to 7 years, concussions have become very fashionable as far as receiving a lot of media attention. I know that prior to probably the 1990s, there really was not a lot of talk concerning concussions. And I think that if you talk to most players, they would all say that they've had anywhere from 10 to 15 concussions. It's just whether or not they were diagnosed. So I had several, but I don't really believe that that my concussions were an inordinate number relative to other players that have played this game.
The analysts, the critics will say one of the things that led to a lot of these concussions is you're not the most mobile quarterback in an era where everyone's talking about that. That's what the teams that are at the forefront have, mobile quarterbacks, and that's one of the things that prevented you from having more opportunities now. What do you think of that? Is that era of the pocket, straight pocket passer, you're kind of a throwback kind of guy, is that fading away?
Well, you know, I've heard some people say that it is. I've heard some quarterbacks even say that it's a different era. You won't see the classic drop-back passers. Gary, quite honestly, I disagree with that. I think that if you can throw the football and be mobile, someone like Steve Young, I think that's a tremendous asset. But there are more and more quarterbacks coming into this league that are great runners that are not passers. And I think the reason you're seeing more and more quarterbacks in this league that are runners is because the colleges aren't developing the quarterbacks that can drop back and throw the football. I think that if you took someone like Peyton Manning, who also is not the most agile or mobile quarterback, and you asked any general manager if you would like to have him in comparison with someone who just has the ability to run, I think by and large they would agree that they would rather have Peyton Manning. And the position requires you to be able to throw the football. Unfortunately, those guys are not being developed in college. And so as a result, you're seeing more and more quarterbacks coming into this league that are mobile, running around, and not necessarily passing quarterbacks, and they're gearing the offenses towards their skills.
Well, we've got a lot more to get to with Troy Aikman. We'll find out if we have absolutely seen the last of him on a football field and where we'll see him next. And we continue with Troy Aikman. We'll also reflect on his greatest memories through 12 years as a Dallas Cowboy. Those memories include Super Bowl 27.
Aikman under center wing left. Blitz look. Aikman 7-step drop. Throws it right to the goal line. Irvin jumping, catching the 3. Diving. Touchdown.
Just a little taste of the highlight reel of Troy Aikman. Now an up-closer look at our guests over the last 9 years. Take a look at Troy Aikman from 1992 to 95, 46-14 and 91 passer rating. When the Cowboys were winning Super Bowls, he was 32 games over 500 with just 14 losses in those 4 years. From 96 through last season, this passer rating of 79, including last season when Troy had an all-time low passer rating of 67. When we welcome back Troy now to the show. And Troy, how much a part of your declining numbers was what was around you, and how much did you decline in your eyes?
Oh, I think it was probably a combination of the two. There's no question. As I've gotten older, I'm sure my skills have diminished to some degree, and I think that what makes football such a great game is it's the ultimate team sport. You really rely on everybody, and I think from an offensive standpoint for us in Dallas, we were never quite the same once we lost Jay Novacek, and he was a guy who really was able to allow us to spread the field and open things up within our passing game, and we struggled replacing him. And obviously, the better players that you have around you, the better you're going to perform, and that was certainly the case for me.
Have we absolutely positively seen the last of you passing a football in the NFL?
Well, I would be reluctant to just say that I will never play again. I retired under the assumption that I won't, but, I know I've watched a lot of these athletes in various sports that have come back and played, and sometimes it's hard to get it out of their system, and so I don't know exactly how I'll react, but as of right now, I retired with the premise that I am not going to come back and play, but I certainly would never rule that out completely.
How do you feel about the guys who have come back and tried it again, couldn't stay away?
Well, I think for some of them it's worked out pretty well. When you think of someone like Michael Jordan or Mario Lemieux right now, and then for some other guys, it's maybe not been the best thing for them. But I think it's something that would have to be taken a real hard look. And again, it would be a lot like I went through in this decision. The situation would have to be right. And along with that, as I said earlier, we're dealing with a family. I'm not single as I once was, and so there's a lot of considerations.
You know, Steve Young shares your agent, Lee Steinberg. He retired. It was a tough decision. He waited until right before the season started. Dan Marino just retired. How much did you consult with these guys about this decision?
Well, I talked to a lot of different players, Roger Staubach being one of them. I happened to run into Danny a few weeks ago, visited with some various guys, and they all agreed on one thing, that it's hard. And you don't ever really know that this is the right time, because I think what has allowed all of us to be able to have the success that we've had is that we're very competitive people by nature. And so you never walk away from the game feeling like you can no longer perform at a high level. And so when you do decide to leave, unless it's a medical injury where you're just forced to leave, you always have those thoughts in the back of your mind that you could still do it and still do it with the best of them. And I certainly leave the game feeling the same way.
Well, everyone thinks you're going to go into broadcasting, something you had a taste of. Let's give the audience a taste of you doing NFL Europe games before we talk about your broadcast future.
The league's leading passer, Damian Craig of the Scottish Claymores in Troy, he can beat you a lot of different ways.
Well, he really can, and as you mentioned, he's the league leading passer, and he's able to sit back in the pocket. He really has shown an ability to make all the throws. He can beat you by throwing it deep. He can make the intermediate throws as well as the tough sideline passes. When that fails, he has shown that he can get out on the corner, scramble, run the bootlegs, and if all else fails, you've got to be careful about his ability to scramble and be dangerous.
Joy, you talk about how competitive you are on the football field. How good a broadcaster do you think you're going to be?
Well, you know, if that's something that that happens, and we're in talks right now, and I think that there could be an announcement coming within the next few days, I'd like to think that I could be pretty good. I know that I'll approach it the same way I did my football career and try to engulf myself in it and be as good as I can possibly be. So only time will tell. I don't know that at this stage you can really try to determine how good anybody's going to be in a particular field that they've not been a part of. You know, I think it's a lot like when I came into the league back in 1989. I think there's some potential there, and then it's just what you choose to do with it. And I'm going to work hard and try to do a good job.
One of the interesting things is that Troy's so soft-spoken and plain-spoken when he's on the football field or talking about the NFL, but when he's in the broadcast booth, he showed a different side of himself, and he certainly showed a lot of emotion in his retirement announcement on Monday, especially when he talked about that man, Michael Irvin. We'll reflect on Michael next.
We can cut through the red tape and bust through the fakers. Keep your eye on Big Shaq and put your money on the Lakers. I'm guaranteed to do what? I repeat, I'm guaranteed to bring it to your face indeed. Now see me, run to the border, hit the water, cause your style and your profile is out of order. And watch me make your girl jiggle like Jello. Whose world is this? Over here, baby, hello.
That's Shaq rapping one of his 5 CDs that he's authored. He's now authored a book called Shaq Talks Back. When we return on Monday, part 1 of an in-depth interview about Shaquille O'Neal's book, in which he takes on everyone, including his former coaches and Kobe Bryant. Join us Monday at 5:30 Eastern. Still to get to with Troy Aikman, how Jerry Jones, the man who released him, came to be sitting next to him at his retirement announcement.
I have a hard time bringing up Michael's name without getting real emotional because of the relationship that we had. We still have. And I've never been around a more unselfish player than Michael Irvin.
Welcome back to Up Close with Troy Aikman. That was his emotional response to talking about Michael Irvin. I'm going to bring up the name. Hopefully it won't be too emotional. But we couldn't find 2 guys that, in our views, were more of a dichotomy than you and Michael Irvin. What made you guys so close?
Well, you're right on the one hand that, you know, we're almost the antithesis of each other. But on the football field, I've got to tell you that Michael, as I said yesterday, was one of the most unselfish players that I've ever been a part of. And I think that as an opponent, if you were to hear me say that, you would never understand that. But Michael is a very intelligent football player. He's a hard-working player. We had no one on our football team over the 12 years that I've been here that worked harder than what Michael Irvin did. As I said yesterday as well, he ran every route in practice as though he was running a route in the Super Bowl. He was smart enough to understand when he was getting double covered why he was not getting the ball thrown to him. We just had a very special relationship and someone who I think an awful lot of. And I know Michael has made some mistakes in his life, but he's a person that unfortunately not enough people have had the opportunity to get to know for the type of guy that he is. And I just appreciate the time spent with him and his work habits and his work ethic and his desire to win and all the things that I think are important for a football team and for a football player. Michael exemplified all those things.
Troy, Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith were there. They got pretty emotional themselves when they were talking about you. As a guy who you just mentioned knows him pretty well, how do you explain all the struggles he's gone through and some of which he's repeated?
We're talking about Michael?
Yes.
Well, you know, I don't know that I can explain those things, and it's not for me to try to. You know, I have my relationship with Michael and what I've been through with him and my experiences with him, and I just see a very genuine person that has been just tremendous to me, my family, to this organization, the people that he's taken care of. So many things that he has done that have gone unnoticed and nobody's talked about. And there have been past discretions, there's no question. But, you know, I don't let that cloud the great things that I know that he does and the kind of person that I know he is deep down.
We got more to get to with Troy Aikman. So much to cover in a glorious 12-year career. When we come back, we'll take your ESPN.com questions and get Troy's reflections on the highlights from his 12 years with the Cowboys.
Of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com.
Time now for our internet viewers to take over the interview. Christopher Gagney from Texas wants to know, Troy, what was your single greatest play during your tenure in Dallas?
Oh, geez. I'd have a hard time coming up with a play. That kind of throws me off. I would say that one of my favorite games was a game that we actually lost. It was the championship game following the '94 season at Candlestick Park against the 49ers. But as far as a particular play, you know, nothing comes to mind right now. There's some plays during the various Super Bowls that we had that were meaningful, but to try to single out one would be very hard for me.
Let's go to Greg Nowak from Edmonds, Washington. What advice would you give young quarterbacks who are thrust into starting jobs right away?
Well, young quarterbacks in the NFL, I think the biggest key is to just know that it's going to be a trying experience and that you do everything you can not to lose confidence. I was very fortunate when I came into the league that I had Jerry Rome and our backup quarterback at the time, Babe Laufenberg, that were really great supporters for me, and they didn't allow me to lose confidence. But so many times a young quarterback will get thrown into the fire and they don't have much success. It's very difficult to have success in this league that early, and they lose confidence, and it winds up affecting them the rest of their career. So my advice would be just to go in knowing that it's going to be difficult, and just try to learn from it and not let it be a defeating experience.
Joe, I got a little over a minute left. It may not be enough time to go into all this, but it was very difficult for Jerry Jones and for you, for him to sort of walk this tightrope of how to handle a guy who's meant so much to his franchise. I'm sure there were some difficult times between March 7th and yesterday's announcement. How did it come to be that he was sitting next to you and you guys were side by side again?
Well, you know, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Jerry Jones drafted me in 1989. I was his first player that he ever chose. And our relationship spans 12 seasons, and we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot professionally. We've been through a lot personally. And I wouldn't have had anybody else there sitting next to me when I make that announcement. And so I was glad that he was there to be a part of it. It was unfortunate the way it came down a month ago with the release, but that's the system that we're now in. And Jerry and I have a great relationship, and that relationship will continue for many, many years.
Well, we'll miss you on the football field in the NFL, just as Dan Marino did in Miami and John Elway in Denver. Troy Aikman retires as a Dallas Cowboy, as one of the proudest quarterbacks in the history of that franchise. It's been a pleasure watching you all these years, Troy.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.